Welcome to M Squared TechCast.
Hey, it's Mike Brennan, and we're back for our final segment on MITech TV. And another disclaimer, Richard and I go way back. We even wrote a cyber crime thriller together, Cyber Stiletto. Hard to believe that it was 2011, Richard.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Where has the time gone? But he has a new book. As you can see, a copy of it right here, the Security Yearbook 2020. And Richard just published that a couple weeks ago, right?
It's available for pre-order on Amazon, so it's not officially going live until Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. What a nice gift for the little lady or something,
Perfect
right?
gift, yeah.
Yes. So talk a little bit about what folks are going to find in the Security Yearbook.
Yeah, last year I was at our big security conference in San Francisco. I was signing the book I had just published then, and I realized that I needed a book for this year.
Yes.
And this year's RSA Security Conference starts February 24th.
Yeah.
And I got, it was all coming together. I've always wanted to publish a directory of all the vendors in the security space.
Right.
I've been collecting that information for a decade. Of course, it changes continuously.
And they come, they go, they merge.
Oh my gosh, yeah, they usually get bought out. There are a few failures, and I've got a chapter on the failures in here. But I realized when I was talking to these young people, let's call them, they're kids, in their booths with their new startup. They're funded. They've got enough money to pay the tens of thousands of dollars to have a booth. And they would tell me what their company does, and I'd go, oh, so you're like so-and-so who tried that in 2003. And they would just stare at me like I was crazy. They had never heard any of that.
Oh, boy.
So that's when I realized I had to write a history of our industry and put it all down. And at least what I know of the history. And, of course, I learned a lot as I was putting it together. I interviewed the founder of Checkpoint Software, Gil Schwed.
Yep. Met him in Israel a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And he's, a genius in the industry, genius for what he created in the first place.
Right.
And not only did he create the first stateful inspection firewall, but he also created the first idea of a reseller for security, which now all the vendors kind of feed off of the fact that there's so many resellers of security products.
Right.
I interviewed David Cowan, who was a young venture capitalist when he created VeriSign, the company that today
with gazillions of dollars, right?
$24 billion on the stock market. They basically maintain all the registrars for .com.
Right.
And they get $6 per domain name every single year. So
the rival is GoDaddy, right?
GoDaddy has to sell theirs.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, it's quite cool. And then I stumbled across Barry Schrager, who was really the guy who created the first security system for IBM mainframes. So I got his whole story in this book, and probably 6 or 7 other ones. So if you get this book, you'll have a complete history. So I hope it'll be sold as a textbook. It'll be
Professor Stiennon.
Yeah, exactly. I'll teach a course on it if somebody would only ask me to teach at the university. And then, everybody coming into the industry, all the people I met at RSA last year, who some had just been in the industry for 2 weeks. Where do you start? Here's a book.
Those newbies, they have no history. So, well, good. I'm glad that, and then Amazon, and then it's going to go into paperback at some point too, right, or not?
Yeah, right before Black Hat. I'll issue it as paperback, so it'll be a little cheaper, and of course, ebook. So it'll be a lot cheaper there.
Are you going to do book signings at these various events? Or?
Yeah, at RSA, I'm doing 2 book signings in the Spirent booth. Spirent's one of the oldest companies in the business. And so for an hour on 2 days of the conference, I'll be sitting there signing books. We expect to sign about 400 of them. Spirent is sponsoring that, so you can get your book free if you're at the conference. Otherwise, I'll be selling it from various places.
Yeah. You've come a long ways from being a U of M aeronautical engineer. So you might want to tell your background a little bit. You've been in the cybersecurity space for decades now, right?
Yes, I graduated from Michigan, went to work in Saline, Michigan as a automotive engineer. I was designing car seats for the first 11 years of my career. And then I discovered this thing called the internet in 93.
Yeah, about when the graphical interface started, right?
Yeah, right then. As I was launching my ISP called RustNet.
Yes, one of the oldest in the whole area. You and Gary Baker.
That's right.
Online tech, Gary Baker and you are pioneers.
Yeah, and it was just a fast learning curve. It took about 12 months to convert from automotive engineer to network engineer. And from RustNet, I went to join a company in Southfield called Netrex, which was one of our first security company.
Right.
They sold to a company in Atlanta, Georgia for about $80 million. And then that's turned into what is now IBM's managed security service. And they still maintain a SOC in Southfield.
And then you did a stint at Gartner Group.
Yeah, I was hired into Gartner from Price Waterhouse. And at Gartner, I was the network security analyst. And that's really where I found what I'm most comfortable doing is being an analyst. Gives you some independence from the vendors. And it gives you an excuse to just dig in and understand all the cool technology everybody's doing and guide some vendors if they reach out to me. And then I do a lot of public speaking and writing at Forbes. And, of course, this is my 5th book. So
and you have your little writer's he shed in Birmingham.
That's right. Yep. So I dreamed about having a cabin on Lake Huron or something where I usually rent a motel room to write my books. And I realized, that's not going to happen for a while. So I wanted to build a shed in the backyard.
Right.
And I didn't have enough space allotted to building more buildings, so I built it in the garage.
Oh, is that where it is? I haven't actually. I've seen pictures on Facebook, but I haven't actually seen it.
It's modeled off of Thoreau's cabin.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all right. So we got, looking at my clock here, we got about 7 minutes left or so. Let's talk about, the latest cyber threats. What's going on out there with the bad guys?
Yeah, so, we hear about ransomware all the time. And last time I was on the show, we talked about all the local communities that were getting hit with ransomware.
Sure.
Right now, what's happening is a whole bunch of new vulnerabilities have been exposed in Windows products, browser products. All anyone can say is update as soon as you can.
Yeah, when that patch comes through, don't dilly-dally, right?
Don't dilly-dally. Now, the trouble is that Windows 7 now has some vulnerabilities in it, and Windows 7 is no longer being supported by Microsoft.
Yes.
So now it's, throw out your old operating system and get Windows 10, and I'm sure you're going to find your computer can't handle Windows 10, so you need a new computer.
Yeah, it's all that insidious thing they got going there, get you to spend money, right? It's like the constantly upgrading the smartphones. Oh, you got to have the newest model, but hey, that'll set you back $1,500. But what the heck?
Yep.
So
I have an issue with. Every security person says update immediately, like you just said, and that's true for security. But the trouble is, for years, iTunes may not have known that they really wanted to capture all of your data, right? And know what you were listening to at what time of day and all that. So they're going to send an update that starts to spy on you more.
Right.
And you eventually have to update, even when you wait until you get a new
You can only wait them out so long.
Yeah.
Them bastards are going to get you, right?
They'll get you eventually.
Yeah, so we can say that because we're not an FCC license kind of thing, So, what else is going on out there?
Yeah, so I was just looking again. I was helping a headhunter write a piece on why you should hire a CISO, and he was quoting all the cybercrime statistics. But to me, the most important one is reported by the FBI every year, and when they last reported, the so-called business email compromised had reached $26 billion in money lost through, and that's just money that's reported lost. So business email compromise is where a clever attacker sends a carefully crafted email to somebody in the organization who has access to wire transfer accounts and convinces them that it's the CEO or the CFO reaching out. Quick, you got to transfer this money. And they
don't call me about it. Just do it.
Right. I'm in a meeting with the board and I can't come out, but we need to do this or we're going to lose an opportunity. And it happens so often that the numbers are now up to $26 billion.
Like you said, that's just all they're reporting.
Right.
And having tried to put out a cybersecurity newsletter, it's like when they got busted on something, they didn't want to talk about it. And when they had the solution, they didn't want to talk about it. It's really hard doing the news in that area.
It is really hard. And so I could imagine, the actual losses easily double. The
probably at
26
least,
billion, right? And the reason it's so important is, and totally unlike the trillions of dollars you hear about from cyber attacks damaging people, it's like, first of all, you can't measure damage when you're attacked, right? There is cost because you got to fix things and you have to notify all of your users that this happened. So there's costs associated with that, but nowhere does it come close to $1 trillion. But all that aside, $26 billion in business email compromise has ended up in the hands of the perpetrators.
Yes.
Most of them in Eastern Europe.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
Sure
and
is.
They reinvest it because they want to look for the next target. They did. They've reinvested in ransomware attacks against cities.
That's a good topic. We should do a dark web segment at some point because people aren't even, most people aren't even aware there's a dark web out there. And it's like this shopping center you have to have the Tor browser, right? There's probably other browsers that access it, right?
Yep, Tor browser to access it. And then there are 71 dark web research companies that we talked about. They're all listed in the book. And they actually, put on these personas, act like they're hackers, and quite often are Russian speakers or Romanian speakers, whatever. They get into those chat groups where people are buying and selling stolen credentials and all that. So they spy on that, and then their customers hire them to say, "Hey, I'm from Blue Cross Blue Shield. How do I?" tell me whenever somebody's got our medical records or somebody's talking about stealing our medical records.
Sure.
And create a research report to tell us what we need to do about that. So,
that sounds like it could be actually a sequel. We should have our heroine, Yvonne Tran.
You're always thinking
I know we keep saying we're going to do a sequel. That would be a fun one to do. I'd like to spend some time. I'm always nervous about going into those kinds of areas because you wonder if they harvest your IP address and they begin to spy on you.
Sure,
right?
they do, and it could be life-threatening if they discover your real identity.
Yes, that you're really a journalist trying to do stories about them, right?
Exactly.
So,
Brian Krebs runs into that all the time. He's the one journalist who does try and dig into that.
Yeah.
And he gets threats. He's had people SWAT his house.
Really?
So they call a SWAT team in on him. And,
no kidding.
Guns pulled and everything.
Wow. Yeah. Keep that in mind. Maybe it's not such a good idea then.
Not a good idea.
But, I'll let Dave Phillips do it. He's Dave Phillips, by the way. You can reach him at. No, I'm just kidding. So all right, cool. So we got about a minute left, Dave? So let's tell people once again where they can, shameless plug, there we go.
Okay,
so
go to Amazon,
yeah.
Just search on security industry or security yearbook, you'll find it right away. Pre-order it if you want it by February 14th.
Sure.
And,
a nice Valentine's Day gift.
Yep.
Who could say no to a Security Yearbook 2020, right?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, forget them flowers, right?
And then if you want updates as the industry changes, you can go to security-yearbook.com. And throughout the years, as I'm writing new chapters, and all that, I'll be writing for posts there.
That is always the problem with print. As soon as you print it, it's obsolete, right?
Oh, yeah. As soon as I released it to the printer, it was obsolete.
Right.
Not obsolete, but
out of date.
Things change.
Yeah, so.
And I'm updating. So in the directory here, you can see all the vendors listed like that, but in parentheses, I put the number of employees at the vendor. That data changes every day.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I update that every quarter in my database.
Okay.
And that's given me this remarkable visibility into who's doing well and who's
if they're laying people out, that's not a good sign, right?
Exactly.
So,
and you can see that through LinkedIn.
Perfect.
You can see that if you're watching.
And so give that address where they can find that information.
Security-yearbook.com.
Okay, there you have it. That's Richard Stiennon. Richard and I go way back to his Rustnet days when I was at the Free Press covering technology. And then we wrote a book together. And one of these days we will do that sequel.
Traditional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life. But LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.